And we are continuing our live show here in Elizabethton. I'm now joined by Dr. Joe Moore and Dr. Christian Zembower, and we're so excited to be talking about a very special concert to celebrate Johnson City turning 150. So Dr. Zembower, I'm going to start with you. Tell me a little bit about this cool concert that you guys have coming up.
Well, about a year ago when Johnson City was starting to plan for the 150th anniversary, I was invited to the meeting, being that Johnson City Community Concert Band is a part, and so we came up with an idea. I had to talk to the board for the band, and the board president, Lee Ruffin, suggested maybe that we have Dr. Moore compose a piece that was maybe centered around something about 1869 or Johnson City, and so that's how the whole thing came about.
Right, and so the concert is titled Echoes of 1869. So when kind of going back to the drawing board and when you guys were kind of thinking about wanting to do something like this, how did the idea of doing something like this come to fruition to now you guys are actually going to hold it?
Well, Joe and I work with each other in ETSU in the band's program, so when I met with him informally, said, would you want to be commissioned and write something? So he then did the research about what the whole piece is about.
Wow, that's so cool. And so Dr. Joe Moore, I'm going to come over and talk to you. Tell me a little bit about the piece that you composed for this concert.
I was trying to think of what would be appropriate to symbolize the sesquicentennial, and I thought about the year 1869. And I thought, well, maybe music that was written around that time would be appropriate. And then as I started doing research, I realized the phonograph wasn't even invented until 1877.
Wow.
Radio wasn't invented until 1895. So the only way that music was really promoted was through live performances. And so I started looking into, what those venues might have been. At that time, there was only one orchestra in the nation, and that was in New York. And so a lot of the live music was produced through town bands. And these town bands were the remnants of the regimental bands from the Civil War. And so I started looking into what type of music they played and thought, well, maybe it'd be really cool to incorporate those kind of sounds. And so I've in looking at that and researching that, a lot of their music consisted of obviously patriotic music and marches and things, but also popular music of the day. And so that's what I wanted to do. And it sort of fell into three categories. Those march type tunes, and then of course faith and religion was a big part, and so a lot of people dealt with music through church and through camp meetings and things of that, and so obviously a hymn element, and then just some of the popular fun songs that were more leisure songs, and so it fell into three movements. And so I decided to title it Echoes of 1869 and do a throwback to the type of music they would have heard played by one of these town bands.
And so for the man kind of behind this concert, what is it like for you to be able to work on this and then be able to show it to the public?
It's really pretty exciting. It's the first time I've done a large-scale work. I've arranged music for marching bands, where I've taught for years, but this is my first large, significant work for concert band. And so doing the research was very, very interesting. I was able to get some ideas through the Library of Congress. And then actually one of the best Civil War bands was based out of Old Salem, North Carolina, which is now Winston-Salem. And they were actually musicians from the Moravian Church that had formed a brass band during the Civil War. And so their works are still archived in the museum over there. And so I was able to get access to see some of their music and get some ideas for not only the tunes, but like in the first movement, I try to recreate kind of that sound of that regimental band.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much history and work that went into this, and everyone can definitely come and take a look. And you will be there, and tell me a little bit about the community band that will take part in this.
Community band was founded early 80s, 1980s, actually by former director of bands, Joe Herman, who's now retired from Tennessee Tech. And so it's a volunteer group, and we meet on Monday nights from 7:15 to 9 at Indian Trail Intermediate School on North Roan Street. And we have generally, again, an average of around 80-85 members, sometimes a little less, sometimes more, depending upon the year. And we have a mix of players, anybody from like a sophomore in high school all the way through like an 85-year-old clarinet player and anything in between.
I love that. That is so great. There's a reason why it's called the community band, and there's a reason why you're asking everyone to come on down and check out the concert, celebrate Johnson City turning 150. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you so much. And all the information, if you want to check out the Echoes of 1869 to celebrate Johnson City turning 150, it's right there on your screen. It's happening July 27th at 5 p.m. at Winged Deer Park.